The Detroit Tigers sweep the Giants at home. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. The Tigers do not play baseball today as you're listening to this, but they did on Wednesday afternoon, and they complete a 3-game series sweep against the San Francisco Giants. The Giants going into this series were 31-22. Pretty solid. They leave 31-25. Obviously still pretty solid, but the Tigers are now 37-20. Dog. I can't even believe that's a real that's real. 37-20 on the season. They've won 4 consecutive baseball games. Again, a series sweep here. My first thought is that was yet again just unbelievable. That is a gutsy, impressive, and professional victory for the Detroit Tigers. Look, like I said, the Giants, that's a good team. It's a good team with a good bullpen, good, stuff in the rotation, and it's a difficult lineup to pitch against. A lot of guys that don't strike out very often, a handful of guys that have really high walk numbers. And after a disappointing weekend against the division rival, the Tigers go out and sweep that team. I've said it before. I'm sure I'll say it again. It is the response to losing that is so impressive about this ball club to me. They are always focused on the next day. It's all anybody talks about on that team, coaching staff included. Obviously, AJ is kind of the at the forefront of that and has instilled that in everybody. But they are just always looking to the next day. The second that this game ends, it's about tomorrow now. And that allows, or I guess prevents them from going on huge losing skids. And even looking at last year's team, I mean, they obviously the second half, they were the best team in baseball. Trade deadline on, they were the best team in baseball. But, in the first half when they were under 500 and at one point pretty comfortably under 500, it was really, they had a huge losing skid in June, right? What was that, early June? They lost 9 or 10 in a row, something like that. If you even spread that out a little bit more and just flip a couple of those so it's not that long of a losing streak, it's just beautiful to see them put it all together this year and to just have that confidence that every day they go to the ballpark, they're going to win. And I'll tell you what, so far this year, that is dang near true every time they go to the ballpark. They're never out of it. They consistently apply pressure, no matter who the opponent is, no matter who's on the ground. Just, again, a really professional ball club and a really professional victory here on Wednesday. So what went right? I want to talk about the offensive approach from the team as a whole. And we'll get to, obviously, individuals and whatnot here in a second. But this was another game where the final box score doesn't necessarily look like an offensive explosion, but I really do believe that this was an impressive offensive performance from top to bottom, the entire lineup card. Raup is good. That is good stuff. We talked about the sinker yesterday. The broadcast talked a lot about the curveball during the game, and the Tigers made him work. They took advantage of some bad defense, obviously, but they made him work. They grinded out at bats, even the at bats that were strikeouts or were, non-competitive from a results standpoint. The Tigers made sure that he was going to work for his outs. And that led the Giants to have to go to their bullpen probably, I don't want to say like sooner than expected. It's not like he had like a 2-inning outing or anything, but they caused the Giants to go into their bullpen, and the Giants hung on for dear life with their A bullpen because they were winning, A, going into the bottom of the 5th inning. But B, they haven't won a game yet. Close game, high leverage. They have a lead. They're trying to avoid a sweep. You get thrown the absolute gauntlet from that pen, a couple of sub-2 ERAs out there. Disgusting stuff. And the Tigers score runs off of Rodriguez. Obviously, some of those are technically Raup's runs, but like off of him and Walker, you don't get any runs off him, but you have his back against the wall there. They just constantly apply pressure no matter what the score is, no matter what the situation is. I think that it is the identity of this team on the field. And I think it's what makes them so tough to play against. Even if the offensive numbers of the guy in the box don't jump out the page at you or don't look like they are, like all-star, caliber numbers, it's going to be a tough at-bat more times than not. And it's a tough at-bat 9 times. And then it flips over, the lineup flips over, and it starts all over again. They make you work, and it is almost always a team effort, and it is so impressive to me. On the individual side of things, Colt Keith, I thought, had a really solid day at the office. Obviously, he had the big hit, goes 1 for 4 just with that big hit on the day, but drives in, 2 runs on that. He's now hitting .231 with a .719 OPS, which just, I know, again, doesn't sound like uber fantastic, but when you remind yourself of kind of the depths of his stats, toward the end of April, it shows how good of a month of May he has really had to get to those numbers at on the season. And even in the at-bats where he didn't get on base, I thought, again, he was working counts and putting together competitive ABs. So really beautiful to see that, to him be able to turn on that ball, drive it down the line, pull side, et cetera, all the things we've been talking about a while for Colt Keith. He continues to swing a hot stick. Justyn-Henry Malloy, 2 for 3 with 2 RBI, probably the biggest RBI, the 2 most important RBI of the ball game. That at bat, where he had the big hit and scored the 2 runs, was legitimately one of the best at-bats I have seen from him. And that's really saying something because this dude draws so many walks and hardly ever expands the zone. So, like, a lot of his at-bats, even if they are, end in like pop-outs or even strikeouts sometimes, like, he kind of makes the pitcher work no matter what. But that at-bat was in a league of its own. He gets shown velocity early, takes it, first pitch, fastball, 99 miles an hour, then gets back-to-back sliders. One of them, not a very good pitch, but he's able to foul it off, stay alive. The other one, I don't know how you take that. And I know it looks like it's just a ball that's, 5 feet out of the zone. I'm telling you, that is an unbelievable take. You know that he has 99 in the back pocket, and you have the stones to take that slider low and away and act like it didn't look like a fastball until the last possible second. And then he gets velocity again after back-to-back off-speed pitches and is not only able to get a hit on it, he's on time. He pulls that baseball and lifts it and smokes a line drive to left field. He's perfectly on time with that. Just an unbelievable at-bat. And that's 2 massive hits for Malloy this season. Obviously, this one, and then you look back at the Red Sox series and you have the game winner, the walk-off against Aroldis Chapman. It's anybody on any given night. It really is a team effort. And Malloy, I don't know if at full health he has a spot on this roster necessarily, but I'll be darned if I'm not glad that the organizational depth is somebody that's as talented as these guys, Wenzel Perez, Justyn-Henry Malloy, Zach McKinstry's obviously been phenomenal this year. Trey Sweeney, right? Guys that I'm not sure they have a guaranteed starting spot at full health when for the roster is at full health. But it's so nice to have that caliber of player to call on when injuries come up and when people can't play for X, Y, and Z reason. Because there was a point when you would call up guys that nobody had ever heard of, and they'd get 5 at bats and then never sniff the majors again. Major league caliber players. It's a beautiful thing. Let's talk Gleyber Torres, who had an incredible day at the office. Then we'll talk about the pitching, bullpen, and Jackson Jobe. We'll do that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, as I always tell y'all, I love the no shells variety. It is the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, well, the in-shell options are, in fact, a classic favorite as well. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow with an off-day episode, as well as previewing the really, really important series this weekend in Kansas City. But first, we're going to celebrate this sweep over the San Francisco Giants. Gleyber Torres goes 2 for 3 with a walk. He's, I don't know how else to word it. Like, he's truly incredible. His at-bats are beautiful, man. It is never expanding the strike zone, always putting the bat on the ball, driving the baseball. It's unreal. And he gets on base 3 times in this ballgame. I'm just blown away with Gleyber Torres. I really, really am. What an addition he has been. I think genuinely one of the more underrated signings in all of baseball up to this point. Get him on a 1-year deal because nobody wanted to give him a multi-year deal. We'll see if that changes this upcoming winter. The bullpen. The bullpen does its job in this one. You have Hanafy, Holton, Brebbia, and Tommy Kahnle. I want to talk about everybody outside of Kahnle first, because I want to just really focus and talk about the fact that Tommy Kahnle, I think, just gave one of the most impressive relief appearances of the season. So Hanafy gets in, does his job, keeps the ball on the ground, does what Hanafy does. I again do not understand why there's like a portion of the fan base that hates him for some reason. He is what he is. He gets ground balls. He has a really good sinker, and he did that. That's why he's the first out of the bullpen fairly often for AJ. Tyler Holton, still working through some command stuff, lost the zone a little bit there for a couple of batters, but was able to really kind of hunker down when he needed to. And I think it was a step in the right direction, if you will. Maybe some results bias there where it's just like it was a clean score card. But I thought that he looked outside of, again, about 2 batters. He looked a little bit more locked in there. Brebbia gets a big out for the Tigers. And then, honestly, like I understand the frustration with Brebbia. When you look at the rest of this bullpen, you have a bunch of absolute kind of dogs from top to bottom, especially now that Maeda has been cut and Brebbia has an ERA over 5, and outside of the first couple of weeks of the season really hasn't been super great. I don't know. I didn't have an issue with him in this outing specifically, catcher's interference, gets one base runner, and then the bloopiest of bloop right out of the reach of Trey Sweeney at shortstop gets the second hit, and then some rough defense that we'll talk about in a second gets the runners to second and third. So like again, I'm not here to like defend his season or his spot on the team. Like I would rather have Chase Lee than Brebbia. I know they're both on the roster right now, but like if it comes down to it, when people get healthy again, I think Brebbia is kind of at the bottom of the totem pole there. But in this outing specifically, I really had no issue with what he was offering. I thought he was actually hitting corners pretty well. Tommy Kahnle. So just to like set the scene and really have people comprehend and understand what he just did out of the bullpen. Okay. That is, he enters in the 8th inning of a 1-run game with runners on second and third and no outs. Okay. That is almost guaranteed you're going to give up at least 1 run. He doesn't. He does not allow a single run. You go, wow, that was absolutely unbelievable. Good for him. Then he trots back out there for the 9th, still in a 1-run game, and is facing 2, 3, 4 in a good lineup. You're facing arguably the 3 best hitters on the team. Goes 1, 2, 3 inning. Just an absolutely incredible performance. I cannot stress it enough. Throwing 96-mile-an-hour fastballs up and in? Huh? Who is that? What an absolute dog, man. Gotta love Tommy Kahnle. That was incredible. 2 strikeouts, now has a 1.52 ERA on the season. And, after the weekend, it'll be June. Pretty remarkable stuff. What went wrong in this game? It was not all sunshine and rainbows. Have a few players here to talk about. I want to start off with Jackson Jobe. So I debated putting Jobe in stuff just to be like a homer. I mean, he is 9 and he is not 9-1, but the Tigers are 9-1 in games in which Jackson Jobe starts. And 3 runs, not the end of the world, but 3 runs in a 1-run game, and that is all the runs that were scored. And honestly, like he was kind of all over the place. So I ended up putting him in what went wrong, and I feel good about that. 4 2/3, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. So let's start with what was good, because it was not all terrible. I thought the sinker was really effective against righties in this outing, and it was used pretty well. I thought Jake Rogers called a pretty good game outside of his catcher's interference, but I think that he found a way that he likes to attack righties, and he stuck with it, and it worked until it didn't. And obviously you have to prepare for it didn't, right? You have to prepare for that. Every major league player is talented enough where it works until it doesn't. And you got to adjust accordingly. But that sinker inside to righties was very, very difficult and was giving everybody problems and fits all game until one was hit about 900 feet. And Ramos is a good hitter, okay? Really good hitter. Had a great game. I think he went 3 for 4 on the day. But that is something that I liked. And then obviously eventually it didn't work. The fastball up and away to righties and lefties was both effective when he was hitting that spot as well. Got a few whiffs on the fastball. We love to see that. Something that he struggled with earlier in the season. Also liked how he tightroped his way out of danger. What was that, the 4th inning? I thought that was a good sign. I thought that was something that, you have to learn how to do that. That is part of development. You have to learn how to get yourself out of those situations. And obviously you don't want to be put in those situations, especially when it's your own doing. But if you are, it's nice to know that he is learning and developing the ability to get out of said situation. So I thought that was impressive. What I didn't like, aside from what I've already talked about that I didn't like, was that he in this outing and just kind of on and off lately. I thought his last 2 outings were a lot better, but It's not rocket science. It's not. So I'm not going to regurgitate some information that, or I am actually going to regurgitate some information that you already know. Like, I'm not going to tell you something that is like super complicated and like, look at this stat, and like, he just simply can't throw pitches in the zone consistently enough yet, and he will. And when he does that, he will take that next step and be that, highly touted elite arm that we are all still hoping that he can become, and that I at least am expecting him to still be able to do. But right now, he cannot throw, especially non-fastballs, consistently in the strike zone. And so it is just, AJ, if you want fantastic insight, listen to AJ's post-game comments when he was asked about Jobe. He mentioned how his arsenal is really good and he's able to get outs because his arsenal is really good. But he's showing kind of the kitchen sink in every at bat because he's so inefficient right now. And so part of development is going to have to be, okay, if I can get this guy out by only showing him one or two different types of pitches, then the next time through the lineup, I can show him my 3 and 4 pitch, or I can show, 1 again to get a strike and then go to 3 and maybe 4 and not show every pitch you have in your repertoire every single at bat, because eventually major league hitters are just going to see that well enough and be able to exploit it. So I think that is the next step. And I encourage you to all listen to AJ Hinch's thoughts after the game, because I thought that he did a really good job kind of highlighting that. And then, really that pitch to Ramos was absolutely tanked. That's one of the hardest hit balls you'll see. That was like 111, 112 off the bat, was sitting dead red, got a little bit too sinker happy to the righties. And it's a really good hitter that took advantage of that. So let's talk about a couple other things that did not go very well in this ball game that I kind of want to highlight. Then we'll talk stuff and take a look ahead at the weekend. We'll do all of that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, the 8th inning, the top of the 8th inning specifically, defensively, was an atrocity. So you have the catcher's interference, which is just infuriating, okay? Like, my least favorite thing maybe in all of baseball. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. The most frustrated I get might be, as a catcher my whole life, it pissed me off the most is when I got called for catcher's interference. It's infuriating. So you have that happen, okay? Runner on first. Then you have a blooper that Carpenter and Sweeney can't get to. That's fine. Sometimes the ball just lands where they ain't, right? The old adage, hit them where they ain't. Sometimes that just happens. That is baseball, ultimately, okay? That being said, Carpenter comes up. He's like 10 feet away from third base. That's a massive exaggeration. He is in left field. That's me being very overly dramatic. But he is not very far from third base. And you don't have an extremely fast runner on the bases. He can throw to third, an on-target throw with McKinstry on third base, probably gets an out, or he can go to the trail runner and go to second base and try and get an out there. He goes to third. The throw is not terrible, but it's not super competitive either. McKinstry doesn't even try to go for the tag with the runner at third, which honestly I think he probably should have. Hindsight's 20/20 because there was no play at second either. It is, I don't think it is, you are not going to convince me that they should not have gotten at least one out there. I don't care which bag it was at. Shout out Tommy Kahnle. You just can't have stuff like that defensively. The last player we'll talk about was Riley Green, 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. I'm done almost even trying to explain what's happening. He's just had such a weird season. 2 months in, his numbers are good. He has a ton of RBIs in May. His season, or his lately at least, his stats with RISP have been really good. If you remove the crazy rough streak, in April. Like his season numbers are even better. Obviously, I guess that's kind of unfair to say, hey, if you take out when he was bad, he's good. But I think the best way I can describe it at this point is just that his bad days are just really bad. That is the best thing I've come up with up to this point. Is just that when he has a bad game, it's a really, really, really brutal game. But he'll surround it with 3 or 4 good games on either end of the really bad game. It's just when it is bad, he looks lost up there. And that's kind of what I don't know. That's kind of what this game reminded me of. We'll see what he looks like this weekend. Stuff I do want to highlight, kind of rag on the Giants here a little bit. I don't know if it was a managerial decision or if it was Lamont Wade Jr. himself. That bunt decision was awful. That is an awful decision. You have 2 men on base with I want to say no outs, and the 2 guys after Lamont Wade Jr. are not very good hitters. They're the 8 and 9 hitters. Now, Lamont Wade Jr. has not had a very good season, but is a professional hitter that draws walks at a really good rate, can drive the baseball. I do not agree with that at all, and I think the Tigers, I don't want to say lucked out, but that only benefited Detroit. Whoever came up with that decision shouldn't have. I guess is kind of the blunt way to put it. Also want to point out that Javi Baez was a defensive substitute in this ball game in center field, bro. Like, again, if you would have told me that sentence was true in March, I would have laughed in your general direction. Like, that is just absurd to think about. And it's like totally justified and it makes sense. And you're like, yeah, no, that he probably should, right? He's a better defender than Winfield Perez or anybody else that's currently healthy on the roster in center. Had some interesting TV moments in this game with the grounds crew member hurting their leg. Hopefully, best wishes to them. A couple of interesting moments while the grounds crew member was sitting on the ground in this game. So I'm sure that the internet will get a lot of use out of those, clips and pictures and whatnot, but wishing the best. Hopefully not a serious leg injury is what it appeared to be. So hopefully nothing serious, because it is something that's talked about a lot. And I feel like every team kind of says, oh, we have the best grounds crew, but like the Tigers genuinely are considered to be one of the best ground crews in baseball. And so wishing the best, sending, Locked On Tigers, sending best wishes to the injured party there. That is a 4-game win streak for the Detroit Tigers after a 3-game losing streak. Again, it's the response to losses. I'm a broken record with it. But the Tigers now have the best record in baseball and just swept the Giants. Maybe healing my, how old would I have been in 2012? 14. Mending my heart from, I know it was the start of my freshman year of high school. Like I started high school in September and the Tigers were in the World Series a month later. And so I was very stressed, freshman in high school, got a lot of stuff on my plate. Little did I know, and then on top of that, you have the Tigers in the World Series and they just get swept and it's heartbreaking. And I have never forgiven the Giants. I still despise them. And so this, 14-year-old me is smiling right now at this, as the Tigers sit atop all of baseball. You got an off day on Thursday today as you listen to this. So tomorrow's episode will be kind of big picture off the field stuff. And then we'll also preview a really important series this weekend. Your next 7 baseball games are against AL Central opponents. It is the Royals for 3 games this weekend, and then it's the White Sox for 4 games after that. You also don't have an off day again until June 9th. About a week and a half, a little bit over a week and a half of straight baseball. So we are going to have to buckle up and hopefully the team enjoys the off day here. And and gets back to work because, yeah, this weekend is an important series. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. For your next listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night over on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.